Hi, my name is Yishis, and I play an engineer on the Blackgate server. Today I'm going to present several outnumbered solo fights while roaming in Tier 1 WvW. Please note that my spec and gear information is available in the video description. For the first fight, I'll take on 4 Sanctum of Brawl and hit them head on with very heavy AoE Condi damage. I open with poison and immediately see 2 burst thieves, so blind them with my pistol number 3 and then immediately drop my elite in order to stun all of them and unload a lot of condition damage. Following up with AoE damage from bombs and grenades, I now have both thieves successfully in down state, and my big old bomb further knocks them back. I use the bridge in order to line of sight the Mesmer and try to keep damage pressure on the downed thieves. A 4th thief now enters and uses Shadow Refuge on one downed thief, however he'll still die to condition damage. At the same time, the Mesmer uses Distortion to successfully revive another thief. I follow up with heavy damage from bombs, but take an Immobilize from the Mesmer, so I'm forced to block in order to stun the enemies, and then drop a Blind Field with Bomb Kit, and then AoE Blast Finisher with Shield to re-stealth. The enemies all retreated to stealth, so I used pistol number 3 as it bounces and could reveal where they were in stealth. I then throw grenades in the area where I saw the bounces hit, and this allows me to successfully get the thief down in stealth. As I finish off the second downed thief, the remaining thief and Mesmer take off in the other direction, and I kindly let them escape. For the next fight, I find 2 Jade Quarry enemies engaging a camp that my realm owns, and they're just about to cap it, so I jump into the capture point to prevent them from gaining the cap. As the thief has retreated to stealth and is just ranging with a short bow, I instead engage the Commander Elementalist. I noticed that already she's entered into her water form and used most of her condition clears, so I heal up and then turn on her with heavy condition damage from my grenades. Noticing that she's very low, I turn and drop my elite in order to stun her and put the final damage in to get her into down form. Knowing that she's going to mist form, I immediately turn my attention to the thief and use my shield number 4 to reflect his projectiles. The Elementalist is now intelligently retreated to outside of the capture point, and I can't move out of the circle to finish her off, as it would allow the thief to finish off the cap and guards would spawn, which would overwhelm me. While preoccupied with the Elementalist, the thief gets good damage into me, and I'm forced to quickly react by blocking to stun her and then using my bombs to keep zone control so the thief can't get the final hits on me. With the thief in stealth, I immediately drop heals with my elixir gun and pick up the medkits dropped by my elite so that I can heal back up. The Elementalist has been able to self-revive because I couldn't finish her off, and she now reopens on me with a knockdown and heavy damage. I begin kiting the Elementalist using my grenades to slow her down, and then find that the thief has re-engaged on me as well with their short bow. I use the pillar in this camp and kite around it in order to keep the enemies on their toes and gain zone control. I block with shield 4 to reflect the thief's projectiles and then knock back as the Elementalist gets to me in order to interrupt her and apply more confusion. I keep heavy damage pressure on the Elementalist and use my block immediately as she tries to use her knockdown so that I interrupt her and prevent her crowd control. I get her down with condition damage and then apply bombs on top of her to keep her down. The thief again tries to re-engage with upfront melee damage, but I'm able to mitigate it. At this point, the Elementalist uses her downed ability to try to move away from the guards that spawned, and I take a moment to heal up with my elixir gun. I then move back in to keep damage pressure on the downed Elementalist in order to finish her off. The thief has now fully retreated and is running away from the camp. From here, I stop to revive the supervisor of the camp so that the camp can respawn, and then look for another fight. I notice another group of enemies down the hill, so I move up to them and then stop to stealth by dropping my smoke field and using blast finishers in order to gain a full stack of stealth. This allows me to enter the fight undetected, and I notice that it's 2 Jade Quarry ganking 1 Sanctum of Brawl Mesmer. I quickly help finish off the Sanctum of Brawl Mesmer and then turn to engage the 2 Jade Quarry enemies. I notice that they're both heavy melee damage, being a warrior and thief, so I immediately drop bombs to immobilize them and get initial condition damage pressure. I want to make sure I target the thief primarily first, as he'll do the most upfront damage. He engages with a backstab and I immediately block in order to stun him, and then my big old bomb knocks him back so that I can keep him away from me and still taking condition damage. I keep the warrior crowd controlled using grenades to chill him and keep him away from me, and then kite backwards with the elixir gun to bait the enemies into engaging me in this smaller area. This spec excels in confined spaces where my bombs and AoE grenades can have the most effectiveness in hitting the enemies. Both enemies engage on me with heavy pressure, so I use my elite in order to stun them and gain further AoE condition damage. I drop an Immobilize with my bomb kit and then a chill grenade, and then a big old bomb, and this effectively keeps both enemies completely crowd controlled so they can't get damage pressure on me. The thief retreats to stealth, and I drop a few more grenades to make sure that I have enough condition damage on him. He does successfully drop, and at this point the warrior is going to move in to revive. I immediately respond with a shield number 4 knockback to try to prevent the revive. However, the warrior has stability and is going to be able to revive the thief. I make sure to keep AoE pressure regardless, and it's enough pressure that the warrior goes down immediately. I drop a bomb number 4 to blind so that I can gain a successful stomp, however the thief moves in with a shadow refuge, which prevents my stomp. I'm forced to respond with more AoE pressure on the area that they stealth so that I can keep their health low. The thief reopens with a successful backstab, and I immediately drop bombs to keep pressure on him. The warrior has successfully revived as well, and I'm now back to fighting both enemies. However, I have both enemies' health low and a lot of condition damage on him. I managed to knock back the warrior as he was attacking me, which interrupted him and caused more confusion damage. As the thief is still in stealth, I keep my pressure on the warrior and have him extremely low. I knock myself back with the elixir gun to keep my distance and juke the thief. I do manage to get the warrior down, but rather than attempt to stomp and take damage from the thief, my goal is to keep pressure on the downed warrior and thief at the same time and get the warrior to vengeance. By vengeancing, it's guaranteed that the warrior will die on his own, and I need only to make sure I can survive during the time that he's briefly alive. I drop a heal with the elixir gun and then knock myself back to gain retaliation and distance so that I'm prepared for the warrior to vengeance. As he vengeances, I block in order to stun him and then kite and turn my attention to the thief as he's the last remaining threat. I drop a big old bomb and AoE poison grenades. This blast finisher combo applies weakness to both enemies so that I can guarantee the thief won't do much significant damage. I knock myself back with the elixir gun to keep distance and manage to fully take out the thief. I now need only to apply a bit more pressure to fully finish off the thief. For the next fight, I encounter 2 high WvW rank Elementalists in the same guild. I open initially on one trying to take out my realm's sentry. I lay down grenades as I enter into the fight and then immediately confuse her. She starts to retreat and heal, so I throw my shield in order to interrupt the heal and apply more confusion. She's now kiting away and removing conditions in water form, so I reapply conditions with my bomb kit. However, she manages to knock me down and then uses her static aura to stun me again. She's now going to try to kite away, but I manage to knock her down with my shield knockback and then apply more confusion with my pistol. As she cures her conditions and kites, her other Elementalist friend enters and I immediately evade and then use rocket boots to completely avoid the damage. I then catch both enemies stacked, so I drop my elite to stun both of them and apply heavy AoE condition damage. This is enough pressure to completely knock down the first Elementalist. I then immediately drop a big old bomb so that I can interrupt her friend trying to revive her. I expect the Elementalist to continue to try to revive, so I immediately throw my shield to interrupt further, and then move in for a stomp. However, the downed Elementalist goes into mist form, and I take heavy burst from the remaining Elementalist. I have to drop my heal turret, and use a blast finisher from rocket boots to gain further healing. This successfully kites the second thief out, and I manage to get her down from condition damage. At this point, I can go back and apply a bit more damage to make sure I take out the first Elementalist. Then, it's just a matter of moving in to finish off with a bit of damage on the second Elementalist. For the next fight, I take on both a Ranger and Conditioned Necromancer in open field. This is a particularly hard matchup for me because I don't have any confined spaces to kite them into, and the Necromancer is also heavy condition damage, and I don't have a huge amount of condition mitigation. Already in the fight, I can tell I'm in a bad position and will get overwhelmed, so I drop my elite to gain a bit of space and stun the enemies. I now move to continue to kite these enemies backwards and hope to overextend them and gain enough condition damage that one will drop while I kite them further around. I use the water to line of sight them and immediately drop a net to immobilize them so that I can kite across the water. I don't want to fight them in the water as I'm not particularly fond of water fights and know that rangers are very effective in the water. Instead, I bait them over to the other side of land and immediately start throwing grenades to keep them on their toes. The Necromancer again starts ranging me, so I apply a few pistol shots to blind him and gain condition damage. However, I know that the Ranger is also going to start auto-attacking me. I drop some quick heavy damage on the Necromancer via AoE bombs, however again I'm caught out in the open with no areas that I can kite these enemies and realize that I'll get overwhelmed. The Necromancer then elites, so I know I won't do enough damage to finish him off, so I instead move into the water to reposition myself and wait for the elite form of the Necromancer to disappear. I drop a few bombs in the water to mitigate the Ranger and then kite myself back on land. While still kiting, I pan behind me and throw grenades at the Ranger. I move in to engage on him. However, I'm continuing to take heavy ranged pressure from him, so I start to reflect projectiles. However, the Necromancer has again returned, and I can tell that the condition pressure is just going to be far too great. I clear conditions with my elixir gun, and then clear more conditions with my main heal. However, at this point, I have no other condi clears left, and again have to kite across the water to stay alive. Again, I turn to pan behind me and mitigate the enemies with my grenades. I'm still hoping to catch one of these enemies off guard and apply enough condition damage to take them down. I now notice that the Necromancer is overextending away from the Ranger, and this may be a good chance to finish him off before the Ranger can arrive to support him. I switch to Elixir Gun, which applies the longest bleed on auto attack and makes sure to get some strong bleeds applied to him as he kites away. I then apply poison with my pistol and switch back to elixir gun to keep bleed pressure on him so that hopefully he drops in the water. I managed to fully get him into downstate and now just need to apply enough damage pressure to fully take him out before he can retreat into this keep which his realm owns. The ranger returns, so I switch into grenades to apply AoE pressure, still trying to take out the necromancer. I do manage to successfully get him down, and at this point decide that I'm going to switch to the ranger, but I need to kite him out of the water as I don't want to fight him in the water. I turn around to begin kiting, but at this point the ranger has already retreated into the keep. For the next fight I take on several waves of enemies attacking a camp. Initially I move in to get the jump on an engineer that's not paying attention. I stealth up using my smoke field and blast finishers, and then attempt to open with a pistol confusion shot. However, I find out that she was panning and preemptively blocked and then tried to knock me back. I miss that and then drop bombs to immobilize her and then keep her in position to apply heavy condition damage. I avoid her shield knockback and then throw my own shield to daze and interrupt her to prevent her from healing. At this point, she's in trouble and tries to kite away, so I finalize with pistol and then elixir gun damage to keep condition pressure on her. I then drop my smoke field in order to blind her and prevent her stomp interrupt, and then gain a successful stomp. Next, I notice a guardian also moving in to try to take the camp that my realm owns. I first engage him with basic pistol auto attacks in order to break his Aegis buff, and then apply poison and blind, and then immediately start to kite him with bomb kit in order to apply AoE Condi pressure on him. I keep the pressure up with a round of grenades, and at this point he's retreating and decides to jump off the cliff to try to survive. I nearly kill him with falling damage, however he gets his heal off, so I persist pressure on him with my elixir gun. I now notice that there's 2 other enemies in this camp as well trying to take it. Thus, I follow up immediately with my elite to stun him and then finish him off. I drop a smoke bomb and then blast finisher to stealth and go for a stomp. However, a thief that enters the fight stealths the downed enemy and prevents the stomp. I move back and heal up and then apply pressure with grenades. At this point I make a critical mistake, however, and should have taken care of the thief killing the guard. Instead, the thief manages to finish off our lord, which rallies both enemies which I had downed. This is a critical error on my part, as both enemies being rallied is too much pressure for me to handle at once, and unfortunately the enemies do finish me off. Had I managed to get a couple of shots into that thief, I would have had him finished successfully. Regardless, we'll immediately revisit this camp, now with the Guardian and Necromancer attacking it, and this time we'll be successful. I catch both enemies clumped and drop an elite on them to stun them and gain AoE damage. At this point I know I need to focus the Necromancer first, as his ranged condition damage is most dangerous to me. I switch to Elixir Gun and knock myself back to gain distance from the Guardian's melee damage, and then keep ranged pressure on the Necromancer. At this point he feels threatened and is kiting further away from me, so I continue to just keep pressure. I try to hit him with a chill grenade to prevent him from kiting, but I completely miss and then get pulled by the Guardian. I use my Elixir Gun stun break and then just finalize with pistol damage to take the Necromancer down. I blind him with my bomb kit and gain a successful stomp before the Guardian can revive. Luckily, the guards in the camp are not aggroed, so I need only to 1v1 this Guardian. He tries to melee me and I immediately block with my shield to interrupt him and then drop bombs to keep him snared and then range away at him. I knock myself back with Elixir Gun 4 to gain distance, heal myself, and then apply further pistol damage. However, he heals and goes invulnerable, so I instead switch to my grenade kit to apply further pressure. I drop a big old bomb, and he manages to take the hit, which fully knocks him down, and he then falls over from condition damage. This is a good demonstration of how your AoE crowd control and knockback spells can help your condition damage to tick, as it prevents the enemies from clearing them if they're knocked on their ass. Here I slow the clip down for a second just to show the really cool effects of the assassin finisher. At this point, I've successfully cleared the enemies away from this camp and can now move in and take it for myself. Do note that taking camps with this spec is very, very easy, as the enemies all clump up and your AoE damage can quickly dispatch of them while you remain very tanky. I do at this point successfully manage to take the camp. For the next clip, I'll quickly go back and take on the Mesmer that was in the first clip of this video. I throw grenades to knock him off the bridge and evade his first phantasm. I apply heavy Condi damage with my pistol, block to avoid his phantasms, and then wait for him to finish his blurred frenzy. I immediately drop bombs around his vicinity as he goes into stealth, and when he reappears from stealth, he's stacked with conditions and immediately drops. Now I apply a bit of condition damage and then move in for the stomp. He uses his downed ability, I go for the stomp one more time, and as I'm about to do a cool stomp effect, a Necromancer comes in and fears me away. Immediately, I counter with my elite to stun the Necromancer and prevent any kind of revival, which completely finishes off the Mesmer. At this point, I apply heavy Condi damage to the Necromancer and she begins to kite backwards, and then goes into her elite form. Her auto attacks in this form hit extremely hard, averaging almost 2k damage, so I realize I'm not going to be able to fight toe-to-toe with the Elite Lich. At this point, I decide to kite back and use the pillar to my advantage to kite her around and keep AoE condition damage as she tries to hit me. I establish a healing field for myself and evade as much of her damage as I can, and then drop grenades at her so that the AoE damage can hit her as I kite out of her target range. At this point, I've got her rather low health and stacked with a lot of condition damage, so I deem I can finish off with a frontal attack and get her fully down. I heal up just to be safe, drop a blind field with my bomb kit, and then gain a successful stomp, again doing a bit of a cool animation to see this assassin finisher. Finally, as a cool bonus clip, I'm going to demonstrate how you can act as a stealthy assassin on an engineer. I happen to know that there's a Necromancer outside, so I drop my smoke bomb and then all of my blast finishers to gain a good amount of stealth, move in, and open with an immobilize and then full stacks of bombs and grenades to get very heavy condition pressure on this Necromancer. He drops all of his wells, which I just kite out of, and then as he tries to kite back to the keep, I keep ranged pressure on him to ensure he has enough conditions to fully drop. At this point, I can move in for a stomp and use my smoke bomb to mitigate most of the guard's damage. This also prevents the Necromancer's fear, and I'm able to get the stomp off, and then use my shield blast finisher to knock back the guards and gain a stealth in order to have a clean getaway. For the final fight, I thought I'd show you where the cool spectral finisher animation came from that was at the beginning of this video. This happened to be just a random Mesmer that I was engaging. It was not that interesting of a fight, but I really enjoyed the cinematic finishing animation that happened at the end. With that, I'd like to thank you all for your continued interest and support. I apologize that I remain rather busy in life still, so I can't make a lot of footage. However, I'm continuing to really enjoy the great diversity of this game, so you can expect to still see additional footage of both Engineer and Thief gameplay into the future. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed.